Hi, I'm Kathy Tidaldi. I work here at the Livingston Parish Library at the Denham Springs Walker Branch, and we have been having some painting classes. This is called Paint Like No One's Watching. That's what I'm doing, right? Today we're going to do a Mardi Gras mask. And this is more decorative and fun. It's not fine art, but you know what? Once you make it, you're probably going to love it, because I thought this is going to be a little cheesy, and instead I really like it, and it was a lot of fun to do. So I got the idea from looking online. I wanted to do something for Mardi Gras, and I found where people had had really good results just having fun with paint and colors. They used purple and yellow and green, and they just went wild. Some of them are more intricate, some of them are more simple, and it's just a picture of a Mardi Gras mask. So I decided to try my hand at it, and I think I told you in the last one, whenever I'm putting together a painting, I pull together different elements of other photographs that I find online or in magazines or books or wherever, but I get inspired by different things. I like the fleur-de-lis in the middle of that one. I think someone else had done it a little differently though, so I put my take on it. And then I like the curly cues around the eyes. That one had feathers in it, and you can just get real creative and wild with these. And then this had lots of different shapes. So if you want to take some time now and choose how you want your mask to look, it does not have to look just like mine. You can choose a different color scheme, a different shape, and then I'm going to come back and show you how to draw it and transfer it to your canvas. All right, so once you've decided which mask you want to put onto your canvas, and trust me, when you're painting, you can always change it up a little bit and throw in a detail here and a detail there. But once you kind of have the shape figured out, you might, if you feel comfortable just drawing it on your canvas, you can do that. But I can tell you, this is one time when you want it to be perfectly symmetrical. You really do want both sides of the mask to be exact mirror images of the other side, pretty much so. You have a little freedom to play around there, but to get it right so that the eyes are the same size, you might want to draw it on a piece of paper. I drew mine out, and I chose this shape. And if you draw it on the paper first, what you want to do is you get it kind of like you want it, and then you fold it in half, you see. Or actually, you fold it where your lines are showing, fold it in half, and you're going to cut out, and here's an eye. You're going to cut it out from one side, and that way when you open it up, it may not match your drawing, but it's going to be perfectly symmetrical. So I've already done that with this piece. I drew the mask I had in mind, folded it in half, cut it out, including the eyepiece, and then sketch it on the canvas. So you take your paper after you've cut it out, you put it here. Now, I have mine at a slight angle because I thought that was more interesting looking for the composition. So then you take, now I don't draw on my canvas with graphite, because if I was, for instance, if I was painting a light color, if I was going to use yellow and white, when it goes over the graphite, it kind of dissolves it and it melts into your paint, and you don't always want that. If it was a dark color, it wouldn't matter. But I use pencil colors because they don't tend to melt into the paint so much. So I'm going to outline this mask that I cut out, including the eyes. And there you have the mask we're going to paint. Now, we are going to paint the background first, but we're going to leave the mask kind of not painted. So this is the beginning of our composition. I want a stick holding the mask. So I want to bring that in at an angle like so. I'm going to have feathers coming off the stick, kind of like so. And I want my fleur-de-lis right here in the middle. It looks like a teardrop. And then you have a comma that goes off this way and one that goes off that way. And then pretty much the same thing, only upside down underneath it. And let me tell you, I've seen lots of different fleur-de-lis, so you can just do yours any way that looks good to you. So there's the design that we're looking for. We're gonna paint our beads in. We're gonna have some beads that come around, kind of just to move the eye around the painting. We can change that around a little bit if we want to later. All right, that's pretty much the composition that we're playing with. We're not going to worry about the details on the face mask. Right now we're going to paint in the background. So I have my palette laid out. Let me show you. What we're working with what you would call a limited palette today. Although it looks like I have everything out here. Mainly we're working with purple, green, and yellow. Now I put a little red out here because I might want to shift the color of my yellow. I might use it for blending purposes. And I got a little brown over here just for the stick. But the mask itself is purple with a little blue, green, yellow. And then, like I said, I just mix those different ones together. And of course, always a lot of white. You never know when you're going to need to lighten something up with some white. So that's the color we're going to start with. Got my water. I always use 2 water cups. One of them is for mixing, and one of them is to put the brushes in when you're done with them. I'm going to mix a bluish purple background and use a nice big brush to cover in the background. I'm probably going to cover over all my feathers and beads, but I'm going to leave the mask there. So now's a good time to use your palette knife. When you're going to use a lot of a color, you like to mix it with your palette knife so you have plenty enough of it. I'm going to use a little blue with my purple, and I'm going to choose the red that's darker, not the bright red. We don't want a lot of yellow in our red, so we're going to use the crimson to help darken that in and make purple. If you use the yellower red, you get a muddier color because yellow and blue and red make brown. So we want a red that doesn't have any yellow in it. Same thing with the blue, a real true blue, not a blue that has any greenish in it at all. All right, so I think that's enough for us to do the background. I'm going to use a large paintbrush because I want a lot of coverage. I want to cover a whole lot of canvas at once. I may Alright, I've been filling in the eyes. Tried to keep the color the same. It's a good idea to do it at the same time so you're not guessing at what colors did I have in here. Did I have a little too much red there? So you don't really want it to stand out. You just want it to look like it's part of the same background that the rest of the painting is. So there's 2 eyes, approximately the same size and shape. Okay, there's our mask. And there's our background. Alright. I think the next thing I'm going to do is imply. I'm going to paint the stick, and we're going to go back and do a little bit of detail work on that. The acrylics dries really fast, and that's a good thing because when you want to work fast, you want to be able to go back in and dry against dry paint. So we're going to go ahead and let's try a little flat brush for this. See, here's a flat brush since we're just going to do a straight line, and we're going to use the brown paint. I'm going to use a medium, well actually a little bit darker than medium, and then we'll put the highlight down the center of it. But I'm mixing my burnt umber and my yellow ochre together to get a nice stick color. I mean, I guess I could have wrapped a ribbon around it and made it fancy. You can do that on yours if you want. But I'm trying to keep it a little bit simple here today. We're going to finish this painting in one class, in one video today. So that's why we're kind of moving a little quicker. So I just simply start the line up at the corner of the mask. We don't care how it's attached. They have to suspend disbelief a little. We're just going to lean it against the mask here and draw the line straight down from the mask toward the viewer. Almost to the bottom. We're going to stop about 1 inch above the bottom. All right, we might go back and straighten that up a little bit, but the thing is, that stick is not going to be the focal point of the painting. That's just, it's kind of an add-on. It's just, you can make it fancier if you want to, but for my purposes today, I just want there to be a stick. So we're gonna leave that alone for now. We may dress it up a little bit more later. We just want to have something for the feathers to come off of. Also, now is a good time to go ahead and put white dots around where the beads are going to be, because we want, if we're going to make, you could make green or purple beads if you want to. I put yellow beads on mine, and in order for the yellow to show up, I had to put white dots down first, and then when they dried, I went over them with yellow. Otherwise, the purple would have shown through, like I was telling you about. When you paint yellow over purple, it takes a lot to get coverage. So I'm just going to dot my beads in, just some little uniform white dots going around that's going to be turned into beads. And let's see, I had started it. I also put a white background for my feathers, but I'm going to let that dry a little bit first. Okay, so let's say if the beads come out from behind the mask right here, it's going to be behind the stick. Let's see. All right, we've got our white laid down for the feathers. I'm going to paint the mask yellow now. We're going to lay down the background for the mask, and I'm going to choose my middle yellow here. I like this color of yellow, but I want to tell you, I told you last month, oh, they sell paints at all the cheap dollar stores now, but I can tell you what you compromise, what you give up for your money's worth is when you pay $1 for a tube of paint, it doesn't have much pigment in it. So I didn't get a lot of coverage out of this yellow. It's kind of good for mixing, but it doesn't have a lot of coverage. So I'm using some other yellows here, and I'm kind of mixing them together to get a nice Mardi Gras yellow for the background of the mask. But the middle one is the color that I'm kind of going for. All right, I'm using my filbert brush. It's the one that's rounded on the end, because I've got these curves that I'm trying to go around here. Get up to my fleur de lis. Nice bright yellow. Now I'm going to take this darker yellow and do the fleur de lis that color. And as you can see, it kind of blends out to be the color of the other one anyway, so we're just going to fill it in. Probably need a little pointy one for the top up there. And you can still see my coloring lines in there. I told you, this pigment doesn't have a lot of coverage to it. Or this paint doesn't have a lot of pigment, so therefore it doesn't have a lot of coverage. But we got the mask all yellow. And we've got our fleur de lis drawn in. All right. Now I'm going to wipe off that brush before I drop it in the water. Now we're going to get a smaller brush. Let's see if we've got one that's already got yellow on it. Here's a good one. I'm going to use this to work on the fleur de lis. Now, I used a little yellow ochre and the yellow. I'm going to mix them out here. A little bit of that reddish, the bright red, not a lot, but that will make it look orange. You mix that with the yellow ochre. We want some shadowing. See the one that I drew up there, it has some shading on it. So I think I mentioned it before. Whenever I like to choose a mid color, and then I go in with the shadows and the highlights. So I'm going to put some shadowing in for the, we're going to put my elbow in the paint here. I'm not going to make the center quite so big and round. We're going to make it kind of like that. All right, that's the general shape of our fleur-de-lis. Of course, we can add more details to it as we go. All right, put some white mixed in with that a little bit for the highlighted parts. Not pure white. Pure white. All right, I'm putting a little bit of details into the fleur-de-lis here. I'm using a darker shade to shadow in the edges a little bit. You see how hard it is to cover over that purple once you get it down there? You can keep putting layers on there, but it's easier if you just leave it white before you start painting. And I'm going to go even a little darker still for the shadow. Ooh, that's real dark. Shading underneath the centerpiece there. We're going to come back and visit our fleur-de-lis again whenever we're using our tiny brushes for detail work. We're just putting a little dark and light in for shadowing. Let's get some of the light yellow to indicate the tops of it. It's starting to take shape a little bit there. Yeah, I think I need my littler brush for that. We're getting into tiny territory here. All right, that's enough for the fleur-de-lis right now. We're going to come back and do some more detail work now. I think what I want to do is I want to get my green out and start outlining the things on the mask that I want to be green. Now, I actually brought some other small brushes, because it's nice to have plenty of little brushes when you know you're going to be doing detail work. You don't always want to change colors every time. You don't want to clean your brush every time you change colors. So let's see what I can find. A nice little brush to do my green outlines with. All right, I'm going to once again choose a little skinny flat brush to use. It's one of my new ones. Sometimes when you use a bright color the first time you use your brush, that pigment stays in the colors, and then from then on, even though it doesn't transfer to your canvas, your color, like this might be the brush, oh, that'll be my green brush, because it will always have a little bit of green pigment. A little green will stain it from the first time I ever used it, which is kind of fun sometimes, but you definitely don't want to leave paint in the brush. Sometimes you'll get that with natural fiber brushes as well. All right, so I've got a nice, I mixed my dark green and my light green together, so I think I've got a nice medium green here, mixed up with some water so it's nice and thin. And I'm going to go around the bottom of my face mask here. The mask is going to, we think of a different thing now when we think of face masks. All right, so I was just doing my feather. I'm actually using the blue for the feather so that it stands out a little bit against the purple. I think overall it's going to read like a purple feather, but it's kind of got a lot of blue in that purple. So there's that feather. That's the only blue feather I had. I had yellow and green for the other ones. So I think that is, oh, I know what else. I know what. I can go ahead and start on the details around the mask. Like I said, I like to use, I actually have enough little tiny brushes that I can make one of each color. And that way you don't have to keep cleaning it between colors. So I think I'm going to do a little bit of green detail work. I made the outlines, and now I'm going to go back and do the curly cues for the eyelashes. I think I'm ready to do that because now we are down to the detail work, and this is the fun part. Well, it's all fun, but this is the part that I really had fun with. You want it nice and wet so that the paint, it's going to, when you're painting fine, you don't want the paint to be too dry. You want it to be nice and wet. And I hope this brush is little enough. I might end up changing for a smaller one even still. Wait, okay, tell you what, we're going to keep that one to the side and go ahead with a smaller one for those eyelashes. Eyelashes are pretty tiny. Should have thought about that. So I've got a very tiny brush. And we're going to start out with a great big curly cue on the end over here. It comes out and loops around. All right, now you kind of straighten it out a little bit. So now we've got our eyelashes penciled in here. Let's see, let's make this a little bit more pointy. I like that pointy eyeball. Eye center there just a little bit. And we'll do the same thing over here. We kind of got that going on over here. All right. Now we're going to go back with purple. Now is whenever I want a whole different brush for my purple. Now these can go in the water, but you do want to have, you don't want to have to completely clean them before you start on the next color. So I'm going to go with purple here for the eyelashes, in between the eyelashes. And they look more like commas. They're not quite such curly cues. They just kind of have a dot and then a comma. Brings it right into the green part. And that's supposed to have been a dot. Okay, kind of around and then swing it on in. Same thing here. Not quite the curly cue, we're just filling in little dots in between. All right, there's that part of the mask. Let's put some green dots at the top. I'm getting fun. I'm having fun with dots. So let's accent the top here a little bit Let's see, what shall we do up here? We're going to go back and work on the fleur-de-lis just a touch more. Then we got feathers and beads to do, and then we'll be done. So up here, we're going to put a little accent. Looks like a pearl in each one of those. Or not a pearl so much as a comma. I'm back to the commas again, aren't I? And we'll do it this way too. Now I'm working with pretty thin paint. If you want to make yours a little thicker or go back and paint it in a little bit more, you're welcome to do that. All right. Let's work, since I have my green brush, let's work on the green feather now. And I'm mixing the dark green and the light green together here. And of course we can go back and add highlights and lowlights. One of the green feathers comes in from the side here. I'd like some yellow in with that green. I think I need to lighten it up with some of this yellow that I have on the canvas. It's not that easy to mix paint with the skinny brush, but that's what I'm working with, so that's what I'm gonna. I was just darkening in a little bit. I was touching up the eyeliner of the eye because you don't want too much of the background to fade through. So you can always go back and paint it again to get a more uniform appearance in the eye. You want coverage, nice coverage around it. Oops, a little bit much. All right. Oh, I want yellow dots around the eye too. That was the other thing. Yellow dots, fleur-de-lis, and then the beads. So I think we're going to mainly work with yellow for a while. Let's see if I've got any brushes that have yellow on them. Ah, there's one. It's not real tiny. I don't think I've done any tiny work with the yellow. I have got a real tiny brush that we're going to try out. All right, let's get the yellow out here. And the one with the most coverage is actually the middle one. So we're going to make little tiny dots that go all around that green line. All right, here we go. Just a little dot, 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 just to give it some extra interest. There's the dots. Well, we got a nice busy mask. Now I'm going to touch up the fleur-de-lis a little bit. I'm going to go in here with some plain yellow for the top parts of it. right, I'm going to leave the fleur de lis alone for now. I don't feel the need to outline it. I like it just like it is. Now we're going to work on the yellow feathers and the yellow beads. Let's do the feather first. I'm going to show you the difference when I start to paint with this cheaper yellow. It covers it where it's over the white, but not over the purple. It's just like painting with watercolor over that purple. See, it doesn't do a thing. So we're going to paint in, we're going to go ahead and use it for the background. But then we're going to go back with our yellow that has a little more oomph, a little more pigment, a little more color to it to do the detail work. Because you can see right through where the purple is behind the white there. So now I guess you know what I mean when I say when you spend more money, you get better paint that has more coverage. And then this one comes down out of the way. Oh, got a little green on my brush. We don't want that. Not for this feather. We just want to cover all the white. We don't want any white showing on our feathers, so just get a little color over that, and we'll come back in with a lighter yellow in a minute. Let this dry for a second. That's the nice thing about acrylics is, boy, they will dry in a hurry. Whenever you're ready to paint something else over it, it'll be ready to take it. Okay, we're going to come back and put some more yellow on there. Let's do the beads. Alright, I'm going to touch up the stick now. I want to put a highlight, a wooden shade of highlight down the center of the stick because it's kind of a little too dark for my taste. So let's see what happens if I use a little bit of, right down the middle of the stick. We're going to put a little line of yellow ochre. I mixed up some yellow ochre. Well, I had a little yellow ochre left, and I just kind of put some yellow in with it to kind of like it. I think it's time to put the frame around it and see how we like it. Now what I'm going to do, I've told you, I don't know, I'm going to repeat myself a lot, but when you're not sure if you're done with your painting, you have a frame handy, the right size, you put it in the frame, and you back off a little bit and say, hey, what do I think? Do I think it needs more, or am I done? I think I'm done with this one. I like it. I might get rid of that one little piece of white right there. I think I have a little bit of purple. Let's dot over that real quick. There we go. All right, now all you need to do is decide where you want to sign it and put it on your wall for Mardi Gras. So, be happy, be safe, and have a lot of fun.